Welcome to another video by Pharos Technology. Today we're going to talk about parameter queries. Parameter queries can be actually quite flexible. Just to give you an idea, I've pulled up the Access database here, and I've got a query here that I'm going to use over and over to show all my examples. Well, in this particular one, I wanted to keep it because if I run it, it'll show you that I get a large amount of data. I have 113,000 records in here, all different orders, different dates, PO numbers, and they're, attached to different customers. Okay. What we're concerned most about is this period here, because we're going to play around with the period with our parameters. So the periods are from 2011-07 up to 2014-06. So let's put a parameter on it. Well, if we do that, here on figure 2, a parameter is a simple question that you ask the user in the middle of your query. So you see down at the bottom here, enter system period. It's enclosed by brackets, regular straight brackets. And when Access encounters a bracket, it looks to see whether it's a field or another query item in an earlier field, but finding none, it'll then present it to the user as a dialog box, and here's what it looks like. So now it says enter system period, and here's enter system period down here. That's the way it works. Fairly simple, and if I put 2011-07 and click OK, I get the data filtered down to the 420 records that belong to 2011 of July. So moving on then, how can I get more flexible? Well, we can always, in the next one, have two different parameters. And the parameter over here, actually we got three parameters in this one. So you see that over here, between a starting period and an ending period, we can put 2011-07 to 2011-08, and then over here on the right, enter a total dollar amount. So it needs to be less than, notice the less than sign in front of the parameter. It's going to be less than that particular dollar amount. So I'm looking for all orders in whatever period that are going to be less than a dollar amount that I'm going to enter. So when we run that, we have, it asks for the starting period. So I'm going to go 2011-07, and I'm going to click OK. It'll move forward to the next one, ending period. And I'm going to go 2011-08. Okay. And then I'm going to say, OK, enter a dollar amount. It has to be less than whatever dollar amount I put in. So let's put in $5,000 and click OK. So it'll present me all orders for 2011-07 that are, and if I scroll down quickly, in 2011-08 that are under $5,000. Okay, so let's go and put in, let's go redo this, and instead I'm going to put in the same period parameters and click OK. And the dollar amount, I'm just going to put $1,000 in there. And notice I have only 406 records, but all of them are going to be now under $1,000. You don't see any of those $3,000 and $4,000 ones that we saw, especially in 2011-08. So you can put in multiple parameters. That's what we've learned so far. Well, let's get a little bit more flexible here. What happens if you don't quite know whether or not you want to put the month on? So let's say that we want to add a wildcard to that. So here we have like, that's where we'd normally use a wildcard, is like regular characters and a wildcard. Enter period, ampersand, and a star. Okay. So what it's going to do is it's going to compose that like statement to whatever we input plus the star, which will give us a wildcard of anything we enter prior to that star. Let's see how it works. So I'm going to give it everything for 2011, let's say. And if I click OK, I get 2011-07. I get 4,191 records. That's obviously a lot more than we had in our previous query where we restricted it to July and August. And if we scroll down, we see July, August, November, December, all the way through. Okay, so that way we can add wildcards to that. Okay, so let's see if we can make it a little bit more flexible. What if you want any number of parameters? So I want July, and I want September and November. I want the odd months. Well, how do you do that? In this one, what I did was I created a summarization of the dollars in that period. And so I'm just grouping by the period and summing up the dollars for each period. This way it'll compress the data down and I can show you a lot easier. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an in-string function. An in-string function says basically, where in the string do I find my data? Well, it's going to try to return a number, which is fine, but it also has the benefit of giving a list that it can then act upon in order to filter the data. So I have my in-string function, enter period separated by commas. Notice that's in brackets, so therefore it is a question because it's not a field. But notice period is also in brackets, and because it is a field, it'll be treated like a field, and then just greater than 0. In other words, it's waiting for input, and it won't accept anything. It'll just return nothing if it doesn't have an input, okay? So you can't just run it as a wildcard where you just put in nothing and expect something back. Okay, so let's see how this runs. So enter period separated by commas. Of course, that's our question down here. And I'm going to go ahead and put 2011-07. And then I'm going to put comma 2011-09. And I'm going to put a comma 2011-11. Okay, so I'm going to ask for July, September, and November, the odd months. And if I click OK, I get the summarization totals for 2011-07, 9, and 11, and there's the summary of the dollars. The takeaway from this really is the fact that parameters are incredibly flexible. I could have continued on and given many, many more examples of how to insert parameters in a combination of wildcards and in-strings and all kinds of different ways that I can collect a parameter rather than giving it an actual value. And in other words, waiting for the customer to give it a value. And so really, a parameter query is just as good as you are creative in the ways that you want to use it. So if you liked what you see here, hit that like button and let's get it out to other people. And hope to see you again on the channel later. Thanks.